Captain John Carter stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel USS Horizon. His eyes were fixed on the massive space station ahead. The structure was a marvel of alien engineering, with graceful curves and glowing blue energy fields. It housed the Galactic Council, a group made up of 17 different alien species. For 3 months, John had led the human team in talks with these aliens. 3 months of getting nowhere. John checked his watch. 10 minutes until he would deliver the news that humanity was leaving the talks. His orders had come directly from Earth Command. Withdraw immediately. No more negotiations. No more waiting. The captain's reflection stared back at him from the glass. At 42, his face showed the strain of these past months. His once bright, blue eyes now looked tired. His short brown hair had more gray than when he'd arrived at the station. "Captain, the council representatives are ready for you," said a voice behind him. John turned to see his communications officer, Greg Patel. Greg was young, only 28, but he had proven himself valuable during these talks. He could pick up on alien body language that others missed. "Thank you, Greg. Any last-minute advice?" John asked with a small smile. Greg adjusted his uniform. "Just be prepared for them to act surprised, sir. They don't think we'll actually leave." John nodded and straightened his own dark blue uniform with its silver Earth Defense Force insignia. "They've underestimated us from the start. One last time won't hurt." The walk to the council chamber took 5 minutes. 5 minutes of passing alien diplomats who barely acknowledged the humans. 5 minutes of seeing the subtle signs that humans weren't welcome here. The way the cleaning robots avoided them. How conversations stopped when they approached. The council chamber itself was grand. A circular room with 17 large seats, arranged in a half circle for the council members. The human delegation had a small table near the center, positioned lower than the alien seats. A clear power move that hadn't been lost on John when they first arrived. The Zilari representative, Zilkta, sat in the center seat. The insect-like alien's compound eyes gleamed under the bright lights. Its green exoskeleton shone as if freshly polished. Next to Zilkta sat the blue-skinned Vesperian diplomat in the bulky gray form of the Krell representative. "Captain Carter." Zilkta's translator device converted the clicks and chirps into English. "We did not expect your presence today. Our schedule indicated technical discussions with your science team." John walked to the center of the room, his footsteps echoing. "There has been a change of plans, Representative Zilkta. I come with a message from Earth Command." The chamber, usually filled with the background noise of translator devices and aid discussions, grew quiet. "By order of Admiral Samantha Miller and with the full authority of the Earth government, I am informing the Galactic Council that humanity is withdrawing from these negotiations, effective immediately." A wave of clicks, hums, and other alien sounds filled the room. The translator devices struggled to keep up with the sudden outburst. Zilkta's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You cannot simply leave," the Zilari insisted. "The protocols require a formal review period, cooling off discussions, and—" "The protocols," John interrupted, "have been used to keep us talking while nothing changes. For 3 months we've provided the technological innovations you requested. We've demonstrated our cultural achievements. We've complied with every assessment. My government has concluded that these negotiations are a deliberate delay tactic." The Vesperian representative leaned forward. "This is highly irregular, Captain. If your species desires full council membership, there are procedures." "We no longer seek council membership," John stated firmly. "Humanity will chart its own path forward." The Krell diplomat pounded a large fist on the table. "This is the aggressive behavior we warned about. The humans show their true nature." John remained calm despite the outburst. "We came in peace. We negotiated in good faith. You responded with delay tactics and hidden agendas. We're simply acknowledging what has been clear for some time. These talks serve your interests, not mutual cooperation." He turned to look at each council member. "The USS Horizon will depart in 1 hour. Any human citizens or diplomatic staff wishing to return to Earth space should board within that time." As John turned to leave, Zilkta rose from the center seat. Captain Carter, be warned. The consequences of this action. Save your threats, Representative, John replied without turning around. We've heard them before. The walk back to the ship felt different, lighter somehow, despite the seriousness of the moment. Greg fell in step beside him. That went about as expected, Greg said quietly. John nodded. Did you notice the lack of genuine surprise? They've been preparing for this. Yes, sir. The Vesperian didn't even blink when you mentioned withdrawal. As they approached the Horizon's docking bay, John saw his team already loading equipment and personal belongings. Lisa Wright, the intelligence specialist, waited at the airlock. Her expression was urgent. Captain, we need to talk, she said, her voice low. Privately. Once inside his quarters on the ship, Lisa activated a device that created a field preventing electronic eavesdropping. I've been monitoring Council communications as ordered, she began. Her fingers moved quickly over her tablet, pulling up files. In the last hour, there's been an explosion of encrypted messages between Council members. They're using their highest security protocols. John frowned. Expected, given our announcement. Lisa shook her head, her short blonde hair swinging with the movement. It's not just that, look at these transmission patterns. She showed him a chart. This isn't just reaction to our withdrawal. These are pre-planned communication bursts. They're activating something they had ready to go. A contingency plan, John said, understanding immediately. Yes, sir. And there's more. Lisa looked around despite the security field. I managed to decrypt a fragment of a message from the Kral representative to their homeworld. She pulled up the text. John read it twice, his face growing darker. Proceed with Phase 1. Humans have withdrawn as predicted. Fleet positions unchanged. Fleet positions, sir, Lisa emphasized. Why would they mention fleet positions in response to a diplomatic withdrawal? The captain's jaw tightened. Because this was never about diplomacy. He pressed the ship's comm button. Bridge, this is the captain. Begin immediate departure procedures. Contact Earth Command on Secure Channel Alpha. Priority message for Admiral Miller. As the Horizon's engines hummed to life, John stared out, the viewport at the Council station slowly shrinking in the distance. He had come here hoping for peace, for humanity's acceptance into the galactic community. He was leaving with the growing certainty that the Council had never intended either. His personal communicator beeped. A message from Admiral Miller. Return, immediately. Bring all intelligence. Security Council meeting upon arrival. John Carter had a feeling that abandoning the peace talks was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. As the Horizon prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, he wondered what exactly the Council had been planning, and what humanity's next move would be. The ship's computer announced, FTL jump in 30 seconds. Whatever was coming, Earth needed to be ready, and thanks to Lisa's discovery, they would at least have some warning. Sometimes, John thought, the greatest advantage was simply knowing when you were being deceived. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines as the Horizon jumped into FTL, leaving the Galactic Council, and their false promises of peace far behind. The USS Horizon landed at Earth Command's main base 3 days after leaving the Council station. Admiral Samantha Miller waited as the ship's ramp lowered. Her tall figure stood straight, her gray uniform perfectly pressed. At 63, she had seen humanity's first contact with aliens, fought in the brief but bloody First Contact War, and pushed for peace talks afterward. Now her weathered face showed concern as Captain John Carter walked down the ramp. Captain, she said, shaking his hand firmly. Welcome home. Admiral, John replied. I wish it was under better circumstances. Lisa Wright followed behind him, carrying secure data tablets. The intelligence specialist looked tired after 3 days of non-stop analysis. Let's not waste time, Admiral Miller said. The Security Council is waiting. They traveled by underground train to the heart of Earth Command. The facility had been built into a mountain after the First Contact War, protected by layers of rock and advanced shields. As they moved deeper into the complex, more security checkpoints appeared. Guards in blue uniforms checked their IDs at each one. The Security Council chamber was a plain room with a round table. No windows, no decorations, just screens on the walls showing Earth's defense grid and colony locations. 8 people sat around the table representing Earth's military branches and government. "Captain Carter," said President Paul Evans, a man with kind eyes but a firm voice. "Please brief us on what happened." John stood and described the last meeting with the council. He explained how they had withdrawn as ordered. Then he nodded to Lisa, who connected her tablet to the room's display system. "With your permission, sir, Specialist Wright has uncovered critical information." Lisa stood, brushing her blonde hair from her face. Despite her nervousness at addressing such important people, her voice was clear. "During our 3 months at the council station, I was tasked with monitoring their communications. I noticed patterns, regular data bursts to certain regions of space, encrypted messages that didn't match diplomatic schedules." She displayed a star map with colored lines showing message paths. "These red lines show communications to regions where we now know the Vesperian and Krull fleets are gathering. The blue lines show data transfers that coincide with our technology demonstrations." Commander Eric Bowman, head of military intelligence, leaned forward. His dark eyes narrowed. "They were stealing our tech data?" "Not stealing," Lisa clarified. "We were giving it freely as part of the membership process, but they were sending it directly to military research stations, not cultural exchange centers as claimed." She swiped to a new screen showing a partially decoded message. "This is what convinced me. A message from the Krull representative mentioning fleet positions when we announced our withdrawal." The room grew quiet as everyone processed this information. Admiral Miller broke the silence. "It was never about peace," she said. "They've been cataloging our military capabilities, studying our tactics, and mapping our colony worlds. The Vesperians have moved 23 warships to the border of our space in the past month," Commander Bowman added. "The Krull have deployed their stealth ships near our outer colonies. We thought these were routine movements." "And the council knew?" President Evans asked. "Not just knew," Lisa replied, pulling up more data. "They orchestrated it. Look at these timing correlations. Every time we revealed a defense capability during the talks, the council would request more details, more demonstrations. 2 days later, we'd detect fleet movements or weapons tests in council space." Chief Diplomat Victoria Allen, a woman with long silver hair who had just returned from a different alien outpost, slammed her hand on the table. "We came in good faith. We shared our cultural archives, our scientific achievements, which they've been using to identify our weaknesses," Commander Bowman said grimly. Admiral Miller stood, looking at the president. "Sir, we need to act. They're preparing for a coordinated first strike. The peace talks were just to keep us occupied while they got ready." President Evans rubbed his forehead. "Options?" Commander Bowman suggested. "Full military alert. Deploy the fleet to protect our colonies." "That would tell them we know," Admiral Miller countered. "We lose the advantage of surprise." John Carter, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "What about Operation Silent Shield?" The room went silent again. Admiral Miller looked at him with raised eyebrows. "That's still experimental technology, Captain." "Dr. Alan Russell says it's ready," John replied. "I spoke with him during our return journey. The quantum inhibitor field has been successfully tested in the Jupiter zone." Lisa added, "The Council has no idea we've developed this technology. It wasn't included in any of our demonstrations." Admiral Miller turned to the President. "Silent Shield would let us create a field around our territory that prevents faster-than-light travel, except for ships with our special drive signatures. It would effectively trap any invasion force that entered our space." "And if they attack at regular speed?" the President asked. "Then we have weeks or months to see them coming instead of hours," Commander Bowman said. "Time to prepare proper defenses." President Evans stood and walked to the main screen showing Earth and its colonies. "How quickly can it be deployed?" "Dr. Russell says 2 weeks for full coverage," John answered. but we could have partial coverage of our most important systems in 3 days. The president was quiet for a long moment. He had hoped the peace talks would succeed. Now he faced the reality that war might be coming whether humans wanted it or not. "Do it," he finally said. "Implement Operation Silent Shield, but do it quietly, and get me the plans for how we expose their deception to the rest of the galaxy." As the meeting ended, John approached Admiral Miller. "There's one more thing you should know," he said quietly. "During the talks, I noticed several non-council species representatives trying to communicate with us discreetly. The Saurians, the Aquari, even some Tyrillian traders. They seemed afraid of the council." The Admiral's eyes lit up with understanding. "Potential allies?" "Maybe," John said. "At minimum, they might want to hear about the council's true plans." "Good thinking, Captain," Miller said. "I want you and Specialist Wright to work with our diplomatic corps on reaching out to these species." Quietly, outside the Security Council chamber, Lisa waited for John. "Do you think they'll attack before we can set up the quantum field?" she asked. John shook his head. "The council thinks we're still in the dark. They'll want to finish their preparations, make sure their first strike is overwhelming. That arrogance is their weakness." As they walked through the underground facility, alerts were already going out to Earth ships and colonies. Scientists were being called to emergency meetings. Fighter pilots were returning to their bases. All done quietly. Nothing that watching, alien eyes would notice immediately. In a laboratory on the far side of the moon, Dr. Alan Russell received the authorization code to begin full production of the quantum inhibitor field generators. His team, who had been waiting for this moment, moved into action without a word. Earth was preparing for war while pretending to lick its diplomatic wounds. The Council thought they had fooled humanity. They were about to learn their mistake. 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. On the research station Copernicus, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Dr. Alan Russell worked day and night. His team installed the final components of the quantum inhibitor field system. The technology was humanity's best-kept secret, developed over 5 years and tested in remote regions of space. "Status report," Dr. Russell called out, his voice tired but determined. At 55, his once black hair was now mostly gray, and deep lines marked his face. Engineer Kelly Barnes, a woman in her 30s with copper-colored hair, checked the readings on her screen. "Power systems at 98% efficiency. Field generators, online and synchronized. Network status?" Dr. Russell asked. "All satellites are in position," Kelly replied. "The diplomatic vessels deployed the last relay nodes during the peace talks, just as planned." Dr. Russell allowed himself a small smile. While human diplomats had been negotiating with the Galactic Council, they had also been placing small, undetectable devices throughout Council space. These devices, disguised as standard communication relays, formed the backbone of the quantum inhibitor field network. "Time to activation?" he asked. "On your command," Kelly answered. Dr. Russell pressed his palm against the security scanner. Authorization code Russell Omega 743. The system hummed as it came fully online. On the main screen, a map of human space appeared. A blue wave slowly expanded outward from Earth, covering colony after colony. "Field expansion at E. Expected parameters," Kelly reported. "At current rate, all human territories will be covered within 6 hours." Dr. Russell nodded and opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Miller, this is Russell. Operation Silent Shield is active." "I repeat, Silent Shield is active." Across the solar system, on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Defiant, Captain John Carter watched the field become visible to their specialized sensors. The quantum inhibitor field was invisible to the naked eye and to standard scanners, but the Defiant's advanced technology could detect it as a faint blue glow spreading through space. "It's beautiful," said Greg Patel, standing beside him. "And just in time," John replied, pointing to a report on his screen. "Our scouts report increased activity at the Council borders. They're moving ships into position." On the Galactic Council's main station, confusion spread like wildfire. The Zilari representative Zilkta called an emergency meeting as reports flooded in from Council ships. Explain this immediately, Zilkta demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The Council's chief scientist, Kreltox, a tall, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms, displayed readings on the main screen. Several of our scout vessels entered human territory as planned. When they attempted to activate their faster-than-light drives to return, the drives failed. Failed how? Asked the Vesperian representative. The quantum field properties in human space have somehow been altered, Kreltox explained, his voice conveying disbelief. It's as if the laws of physics have been changed in their territory. That's impossible, the Kral diplomat bellowed, slamming a massive fist on the table. Nevertheless, it has happened, Kreltox replied. Our ships can still move at sublight speeds, but FTL travel within 3 light years of any human settlement is now impossible. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. In the chaos, no one noticed a small alien from a non-council race quietly recording the meeting. Back on Earth, in the underground command center, Admiral Miller received the intelligence with satisfaction. The silent shield is working perfectly. Council ships are trapped at sublight speeds in our territory. And our ships? President Evans asked. Unaffected, Commander Bowman reported. The field recognizes our drive signatures. We can still move freely at FTL speeds. Lisa Wright entered the room with fresh intelligence. Sir, we're intercepting emergency communications from the Council. They're in complete disarray. Some member species are already accusing others of keeping secrets about human capabilities. Excellent, Admiral Miller said. Now for Phase 2. Captain Carter, is your team ready? John nodded. Ambassador Daniel Woods is on his way to the Saurian homeworld. Ambassador Olivia Green will meet with the Aquari Conclave tomorrow. All diplomatic teams are in position. President Evans looked thoughtful. The Council thought they could divide us, study us, and eventually conquer us. Instead, we'll show the galaxy their true nature. Far from Earth, Ambassador Daniel Woods' ship landed on the desert world of Tarak. The planet was home to the Saurians, reptilian beings who had been denied council membership for centuries. The Saurian elders, impressive figures with scaled skin, in shades of green and brown, welcomed him into their meeting chamber. The room was warm and dry, comfortable for the reptilian species but barely tolerable for humans. We are curious why humans would seek us out, said Elder Castor, the oldest and most respected of the Saurian leaders. Your kind has always followed the Council's guidance. Ambassador Woods, a man in his 40s with dark skin and a calm demeanor, bowed respectfully. No longer, Elder. We have discovered the Council's true intentions not just for humanity but for all lesser species. He activated a holographic projector, displaying thousands of decoded Council communications. This evidence is irrefutable. The Council has been planning to use the same tactics against your people that they attempted with us. The Elder's eyes widened as they reviewed the data. Messages detailed how the Council had deliberately blocked Saurian membership, fearing their natural strength and intelligence. Other communications revealed plans to eventually bring the Saurians under direct Council supervision. This cannot be real, Elder Castor said, though doubt had crept into his voice. I assure you it is, Woods replied. The Council has been manipulating dozens of species, keeping you divided while they consolidate power. As the Saurian elders discussed among themselves, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Ambassador Olivia Green shared evidence with the Aquari Conclave. Diplomat Ryan Cooper addressed the Tyrillian Senate. On the Defiant, John Carter received updates from these diplomatic missions. It's working, he told Lisa Wright. Species that have been oppressed by the Council for centuries are finally seeing the truth. Lisa nodded. The Council's biggest mistake wasn't trying to deceive us, it was assuming we wouldn't notice, and that we wouldn't tell everyone else. On the Council station, chaos continued to spread. Member species that had cooperated for centuries now viewed each other with suspicion. The Zalari representative faced accusations from fellow Council members. You assured us humans were primitive and easily managed, the Draconian delegate hissed. Now they've demonstrated technology beyond our understanding and are revealing our internal communications to half the galaxy. The Vesperian admiral who had positioned his fleet near human space now faced a mutiny. His second-in-command, a younger Vesperian with blue-green skin, confronted him on the bridge of their flagship. They knew where we were the entire time, the second-in-command realized aloud. They could have destroyed us at any moment. Instead, they revealed the Council's manipulation to us as well. In the lunar laboratory, Dr. Russell monitored the UA field's performance. The quantum inhibitor field is holding steady at 98% efficiency, he reported to Earth Command. Council ships remain limited to sublight speeds in our territory. And the diplomatic initiative? He asked. Admiral Miller's voice came through the comm system. Better than expected, 7 non-Council species have already reached out to establish direct relations with Earth. The Council is fracturing from within. Dr. Russell looked out at the stars through the laboratory viewport. So we didn't need to fire a single shot. The truth, Admiral Miller replied, turned out to be our most powerful weapon. 1 month after Operation Silent Shield began, the Galactic Council faced its greatest crisis in 2,000 years. The Grand Meeting Chamber, once a place of order and control, had become a battleground of accusations and anger. You knew about the human technology and kept it from the rest of us, shouted the Draconian representative, pointing a clawed finger at Zilkta. The Draconian's scales flashed red with anger. Zilkta's mandibles clicked rapidly. Absurd! No one knew they had developed quantum field manipulation technology. Then explain these, demanded the Tyrillian observer, a small purple-skinned alien who had recently arrived at the station. The Tyrillian projected a series of Council messages onto the main screen. The messages clearly showed that certain Council members had detected unusual energy readings from human space 6 months earlier, but had chosen to ignore them. The Council chamber descended into chaos once more. Security officers moved to protect the main representatives as minor officials from various species began pushing and shoving. In a private chamber away from the main hall, the Council's inner circle met in emergency session. The 5 most powerful species, the Zilari, Vesperians, Kral, Draconians, and Mentari, gathered around a small table. Our control is slipping, said the Mentari representative, a willowy being with silvery skin. 7 member species have already called for a full restructuring of the Council. Let them complain, growled the Kral. Once we deal with the humans, the others will fall back in line. And how do you suggest we deal with the humans? Asked the Draconian, still angry. Our ships cannot use FTL drives anywhere near their territory. A sublight attack would take years and they would see us coming. The Vesperian leaned forward. We must adapt. Send smaller vessels. Infiltration teams. Assassins. Zilkta shook his head. Too late for that. The humans have exposed our private communications to half the galaxy. Even species who feared us now question our authority. On the human colony world New Eden, Captain John Carter walked through a crowded spaceport. The place was buzzing with activity. Ships from a dozen different alien species landed and departed, carrying trade goods and diplomats. Just 2 months ago, such open interaction with non-Council races would have been unthinkable. Quite a change, said Lisa Wright, walking beside him. She had been promoted to Chief Intelligence Officer after her work exposing the Council's plans. John nodded. Hard to believe this is the same colony that could barely support itself last year. Trade with the Saurians and Aquari has transformed the place. They made their way to the newly constructed Diplomatic Center, a simple but elegant building in the colony's main square. Inside, Ambassador Daniel Woods was concluding a meeting with representatives from 5 alien species. Thank you all for coming, Woods said as John and Lisa entered. Captain Carter and Chief Wright can update you on the security situation. John stepped forward. The quantum inhibitor field continues to function perfectly. Council military vessels remain unable to use FTL drives within our territory. More importantly, we've detected the beginning of a Council military buildup at the edge of the field's effect. A Saurian representative named Kexlon raised a scaled hand. They still plan to attack? Some factions do, Lisa explained. Our intelligence shows the Council is fracturing into three main groups. The hardliners want to attack at sublight speeds despite the years-long journey. The moderates want to open real negotiations. The third group is pushing for complete Council reform. Which group is winning? Asked an Aquari diplomat, her blue skin glistening with moisture. It changes daily, John replied. But the important thing is that they're fighting among themselves instead of coordinating against us or any of your peoples. Back on Earth, Admiral Miller met with President Evans in the Oval Office. The room was simple compared to the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, but it had its own quiet dignity. The Tyrillians have formally requested our protection, Admiral Miller reported. Their home system is small but strategically located. They fear Council retaliation for their support of us. President Evans sighed. That makes 12 non-Council species asking for either alliance or protection. We need to be careful about overextending ourselves. Agreed, sir. That's why I've proposed the Interstellar Cooperative Framework. Instead of us protecting everyone, we share technology and resources. Each species contributes to mutual defense. The president studied the proposal on his tablet. The quantum inhibitor field would be shared? Modified versions, yes. Dr. Russell believes we can teach their scientists how to create fields tuned to their own ship's signatures. President Evans walked to the window and looked out at the White House garden. When we withdrew from the peace talks, I never imagined we'd end up reshaping galactic politics. Neither did the Council, Admiral Miller said with a slight smile. On the Vesperian homeworld, another kind of meeting was taking place. The Vesperian admiral, who had been positioned to lead the attack on human colonies, faced a military tribunal. The chamber was filled with senior military officials, their blue skin marked with the stripes of rank. Admiral Zach Voss, intoned the chief judge, you are charged with conspiracy against allied species, violation of military conduct codes, and accepting bribes from council officials. How do you respond? The admiral stood rigidly. I followed orders from our government representatives. Orders that violated our own laws, countered the judge. The evidence provided by the humans shows you knew the council planned to eventually subjugate the Vesperian people as well. For the first time, the admiral's composure broke. The council assured us we would be spared, that we would maintain our autonomy while other species were brought under control. A murmur ran through the chamber. The confession was being broadcast across Vesperian space. Millions of Vesperians watched as their military leader admitted to the plot. On the former council station, now called Harmony Station after being abandoned by many council species, a different kind of gathering formed. Representatives from 23 species, both former council members and those previously excluded, met to discuss a new path forward. John Carter and Lisa Wright attended as Earth's observers. They watched as species that had been enemies for centuries now sat together, united by their shared betrayal by the council leadership. The council maintained power by keeping us divided, said a Saurian elder. They told each of us that the others were dangerous, unpredictable, or violent, while they themselves planned violence against us all, added a draconian representative who had defected from the council. As the meeting progressed, John leaned close to Lisa. Remember when we left the council station? We thought we were heading into isolation, maybe even war. Lisa nodded. Instead, we found more allies than we ever imagined possible. Across the galaxy, on worlds far from the political center, ordinary, beings of all species watched news of these events with hope and fear. For 2,000 years, the council had maintained its version of order. Now something new was emerging. On a view screen in the Harmony Station meeting room, Dr. Russell appeared to give a report. We've successfully taught Saurian and Aquari scientists how to modify the quantum field technology for their own defense. The first non-human fields will be operational within 3 weeks. The announcement was met with applause from many delegates. The balance of power had shifted, and it would never be the same again. 6 months after humans abandoned the peace talks, the galaxy looked very different. The once powerful Galactic Council had officially dissolved 3 weeks ago. In its place stood the new Interstellar Cooperative, with humanity as a founding member alongside 7 former Council species and 5 previously unrecognized civilizations. Today marked the official opening of Harmony Station, the former council headquarters now transformed into the cooperative's central meeting place. The station had been redesigned, with the old council chamber replaced by a large round table where all members sat at the same level. No more raised platforms for some and lower positions for others. Captain John Carter stood in his dress uniform, watching as delegates from across the galaxy filed into the chamber. Human soldiers stood side by side with Saurian guards, Aquari security officers, and even reformed Vesperian peacekeepers. "Nervous?" asked Lisa Wright, standing beside him in her own formal uniform. John smiled slightly. "A little. 6 months ago we were leaving the station thinking we might be heading for war. Now we're back as equals." "More than equals," Lisa replied. "You're being promoted today, remember?" Before John could respond, President Evans approached them. The Earth leader wore a simple but elegant suit with the new cooperative emblem on the lapel, a circle of stars surrounding a central light. "Captain Carter, Chief Wright," the president greeted them. "Today wouldn't be possible without your work. The intelligence you gathered, the connections you made with other species, it all led to this moment." "Thank you, sir," John replied. "But the real credit goes to Dr. Russell and his team. Their quantum inhibitor field changed everything." The president nodded. "Yes, and speaking of Dr. Russell, he's waiting to speak with you before the ceremony. He's in the science delegation room." John made his way through the crowded hallways of the station. The place felt different now, livelier, with beings of all shapes and sizes moving freely. No more rigid protocols or cold stares when humans walked by. He found Dr. Russell deep in conversation with a group of alien scientists. The human scientist stood before a holographic display showing the quantum field technology, explaining a complex equation to a fascinated audience. "The key was understanding that quantum fields don't just react to physical properties," Dr. Russell was saying. "They can be tuned to recognize specific energy signatures, like those produced by our drive systems." When he spotted John, he excused himself and walked over. "Captain, or should I say Admiral, I hear the promotion is being announced today." John shook the scientist's hand. "Not for another hour. Until then, I'm still just a captain." "Nothing just about it," Dr. Russell replied. "Look around you. This is happening because you had the courage to walk out of those peace talks." "We all played our parts," John said. "Your team had that technology ready at exactly the right moment." Dr. Russell nodded. "Yes, but here's something interesting. We've been working with scientists from 9 different species now. All of them were close to developing similar technology. The Aquari were perhaps 3 years away. The Saurians had the theoretical framework but couldn't solve the power requirements." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the Council knew this was coming. They could see multiple species on the verge of technological breakthroughs that would have made their control impossible. That's why they were moving against humanity first. They saw us as the immediate threat." John looked thoughtful. "So their mistake wasn't just trying to deceive us. It was thinking they had more time," Dr. Russell finished. "In trying to stop one species, they united many." The station's announcement system chimed softly. "All delegates, please proceed to the main chamber. The inaugural ceremony will begin in 15 minutes. The main chamber was filled to capacity when John arrived. At least 300 representatives from 12 species sat around the massive circular table. Behind them stood observers, security personnel, and media from across the galaxy. Admiral Miller waved John over to the human delegation section. "Good timing, Captain. We're about to begin." In the center of the room, President Evans took his position alongside the leaders of the other founding species. The Saurian Elder Castor, the Aquari High Counselor, and others formed a circle. President Evans spoke first. "Today, we formalize what began 6 months ago. A new approach to galactic cooperation, not based on power or fear, but on mutual respect and shared prosperity." The Saurian Elder continued. "For too long, many of our species were kept apart by those who benefited from our division. Today we choose a different path." One by one, the leaders signed the charter of the Interstellar Cooperative. As they did, John noticed movement at the back of the chamber. The former Zalari Council representative Zilk Ta stood watching. The once powerful alien now had no official position, but had been allowed to observe as a private citizen. After the signing ceremony, Admiral Miller called John forward. "Captain John Carter, for your exceptional service to Earth and for your diplomatic efforts that helped form the cooperative, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Admiral." The assembled humans applauded as John received his new insignia. When he returned to his seat, Lisa handed him a data tablet. "Our latest intelligence report, you should see this now." The report showed that the remnants of the hardline council factions had retreated to a distant sector. They maintained control of perhaps 20% of their former territory. "They're still a threat?" John asked quietly. "A diminished one," Lisa replied. "But yes, they still have supporters." As the ceremony continued, Dr. Russell presented the plans for sharing modified versions of the quantum inhibitor field technology with all cooperative members. "This technology will not be used to control or restrict," he explained. "Each species will maintain their own system, tuned to recognize friendly vessels." Later, at the reception following the ceremony, John found himself face to face with Zilk Ta. The former council representative looked diminished somehow, less imposing than John remembered. "Admiral Carter," Zilk Ta said, the translator device, making his clicks and chirps into English. "An impressive achievement." "It didn't have to be this way," John replied. "Real cooperation was always possible." Perhaps Zilk Ta's compound eyes studied John. "You knew, didn't you? Even before you left our talks. You suspected what we were doing." John met the alien's gaze. "We hoped for the best, but prepared for the worst. It's an old human saying." "A wise approach," Zilk Ta admitted. "One we should have considered before dismissing your species." As the former council representative moved away, Lisa joined John. "What did he want?" "I think he wanted to understand where they went wrong," John replied. "And did you tell him?" John looked around the room at the diverse species now mingling freely. Their mistake was thinking that deception and control were the only paths to power. They never considered that honesty and cooperation might be stronger. Outside the station's large viewing windows, the first joint human-alien starship, the Reconciliation, prepared for its maiden voyage. Its mission was not conquest or surveillance, but exploration and diplomacy. Admiral John Carter raised his glass alongside representatives from a dozen worlds. 6 months ago, humanity had stood alone against a galaxy that seemed determined to control or destroy them. Now they stood together with new allies, ready to build something that had never existed before, a true community of equals among the stars.